Music is a universal language known to mankind. Every culture has its own music. Goa, the smallest state of India, is extremely rich in heritage and culture. Music runs in the blood of every Goan in various forms like dancing, playing an instrument, and singing. Over the years, Goan folk music has evolved due to colonial influence of the Portuguese rule in Goa, which lasted 450 years from 1510 to 1961. The instruments played before the Portuguese set foot in Goa were of Indian origin, such as dole, tarso, and gumut. The Portuguese introduced European instruments such as violin, mandolin, and guitar, which created a blend of Western and cultural music. In August 2019, the government of Goa gave heritage status to the gumut. The gumut today is a state instrument of Goa. It's a percussion instrument which is made out of monitor lizard skin. Since the beginning until the monitor lizards became an endangered species.
My name is Marius Fernandez. You're in a village called Samatias, and the actual area we're in at the moment is called Ambeansawaro, Mango area of Samatias. I was born in Kenya. I lived all my life in the UK, and I've come back to Goa to do my social responsibility. I'm known by many names. A lot of people, the older generation called me Marius, Mario, and in recent years, people call me Festakat, going to a Festakat. And very recently, they've started calling me Ghumtachea. So I've got many names, depends what part of Goa I'm in. So the word itself, gumot, comes from the sound. So if you see my hands now, you'll hear this sound, and this is the gumot. Boom, boom, gumot. So our ancestors came up with this name according to the sound. So this is a mud instrument, perhaps one of the oldest mud instruments in the world, coming from the soil of Goa. This mud is available in some parts of Goa, in Kepe and Bicholim, and it's not on the top, it's one of the lower layers. And it's at a certain time of the year when you collect the mud. So this mud, there's a process, so it's a very skilled job. Not anybody can wake up overnight and say, I want to make a gumot. It's not like making a cake. Yeah, this is a professional job, and there are about 5-6 different people involved. Now, perhaps one of the oldest instruments in the world, mud instruments in the world, comes from the soil of Goa. And there are a few mud instruments around the world, but none of them has got the top, which is the skin. So that's why we go and should be proud to have one of the oldest instrument covered in the world.
The title of state instrument was not given, but rather earned due to the vital role it played in the liberation of the state.
Yeah, besides the gumot playing a huge role in cultural and musical events like the Zagor, the weddings, Diwali, Ganesh, all sorts of things, one thing we should never ever forget. When Goa was going for the opinion poll, in those days there was no internet, there was no social media, hardly any newspapers, and we were just out of the Portuguese rule in Goa. So it was a pivotal moment in Goa's history, whether we're going to be part of Maharashtra or Goa was going to be on their own. So that's where the gumot played a huge role. When people went campaigning for Goa to be a state on its own, they actually took the gumot with them. They took the gumot door to door in the villages, and they played the gumot, and with the sound of the gumot, people actually came out from their homes to see what the noise was. And that was the actual strength of the gumot. And one of our very famous composers, singers in Goa, Ullas Boya, very famous, he's passed away recently, wrote one of the songs called Sanyache Rati. Every Goan should hear that song, and it plays to the beat of the gumot. Sanyache Rati was sort of a liberation movement song, and the gumot is played in that song. So we have to be thankful that the gumot was in those days basically the social media of that time. Without the gumot, it would have been really difficult to attract the people and to save Goa and make it a state today.
For the first time since 1972, gumots were brought out in the open without any fear. The Ghumtachea Fest, started by Marius Fernandez in the year 2019, encourage people to bring and play their ghumats out in public.
That in 2019 in February, I decided to create a festival called Ghumtachea Fest. Ghumtachea Fest was done on the beach of Shiridao, not far from Panjim. And that was the first time ever that the Ghumat came out in the open. At that time, before that, we never saw the Ghumat. Always in temples or Kala Academy. We bring it in the open with a legal skin. But that's what you can use. Whatever is legal, goat skin, sheep skin, synthetic. And everybody who came to the festival, we encourage them to please bring your Ghumat and we will have fun. So that was the day that the Ghumat was liberated and it had wings to fly. I had to create the largest Ghumot in the world. So I've got the largest Ghumot, and whenever I went to the festivals, I actually took that Ghumot and placed it. Younger generation used to ask me, what is that? And then we can explain, this is our instrument. It was banned, now it's come in the open. And since then, I take the largest Ghumot in the world across Goa. It's always with me, and it has helped publicize the instrument.
Individuals from various communities have used the ghummat during various religious festivals and occasions. The straight instrument is reserved and was designed originally for use in temples. The ghummat, like all other instruments, has its own set of music notes that must be learned before playing it.
घुमट हे गोयचे वाद्य हे एक बेसूर वाद्य असा एका स्वर्णा घुमटा हे आलाप नसता कारण घुमटाको म्हणून मात्रा असता मात्रांनी वाजप असता खंय तरी एक शिक्षणूच अशें आसा पयलींचे पुर्वजे आमचे करून गेल्ले आसा पळय तेच सांगता आतां सांगचे म्हणल्यार आमी धीर मारतात जेन्ना हो हात आसा तो इस्कळ धरून जेन्ना आमी हात मारता असो मोकळ्या पद्दतीन हात मारता तेका धीर म्हणटा हो तुम्ही आवाज आयकतात आसतलो जो आवाज तोंडान काडटा तो हातीन बसपाक जाय तेका धीर म्हणटा आनी हो तेन्ना पुरकार हात पॅक करता आनी आमी त्याच नेटान ताबड मारता हे हात मारता घुमटाचेर तेन्ना हेका ता म्हणटा हो जालो आनी आतां फुडलो तारी गिटो ता म्हणजे ता मारून री गिटो मारता तेका तारी गिटो म्हणटा ओके हो हात दाबलेलो आसा ता मारून री मारता आमी तेका म्हणटा हे अशें बोल आसा आनी ता माझ्या दिसतना री म्हणटा तेका री म्हणटा आमी ता नासतना ताचे ती जाता ती म्हणजे थंय दिवपाक जाय ही समज आयज भुरग्यांनी हे दोन हात हाडले आनी अशें करून दाखयलें की बाबा आमकां एका हातीन वाजोवंक येना म्हणून आमी दोन हातीन वाजयता पूण ही जी माद्याचेर प्रथा आसली माद्याचेर वाजोवपाचे हात हे घुमटांचेर हाडले खंय तरी वेगळेपण जाता खंय तरी वेगळें दिसता एक फील वयता ते मातशें समजून घेवचें तशेंच आतां आरती सुद्दां आयज जालां सगळे घुमटाचो डिस्को केला पेटी हाडल्या घुमट आरतीन घातल्या तानपुरो हो खंयच ना हो आपल्या स्वता खातीर गायना खातीर आसता तानपुरो पेटी ते तुवें सेपरेट करपाचें आनी हांगा येवन गावपाचो घुमटाचेर आयज ना ती पेटी सुद्दां स्वर पेटी हाडल्या स्टेजीर थेयतात तानपुरो थेयतात एक वेळ अशी दिसता की हे घुमट आरती की हे घुमट संगीत आमी म्हणटा जर फ्युजनीक आसता फ्युजन थंय आमी कितेंय वाजयता कितलीं वाद्यां वाजयता तेका फ्युजन तेका नांव आसा न्ही भजन घुमट आरती एक फ्युजन एक ऑर्केस्ट्रान कितें वाजयता वाद्य तें आमी ह्या आरतीन हाडूंक शकना संतांनी रचयल्ल्यो ज्यो आरती आसा ते पयलींचे सगळे आमचे जाणटे आसा जावं पुर्वजक सगळे पयलींचे जेन्ना आदी पयलीं स्टार्ट केले जेन्ना घुमटा वाजोवपाक ते एक पारंपरिकता हाडटाले आनी ते आयकल्या नंतर जे काळजान एक ठेचो म्हणजे एक उमेदीचो जो एक ठेस बसतालो पळय तो आतां खंय तरी कमी जायत येयला आता कंपोज करतात खूप तरेच्यो आरती कंपोज करतात प्रत्येक देवांच्यो पूण त्यो एक बूक आसा आरती संग्रह हो बूक आसा तेजेर जे संतांनी रचयल्ल्यो आरती म्हणजे आमी आतां म्हणटा चवथीक गणपतीच्या समोर गणपतीची आरती करता आसतना सुख करता मागीर देवी दुर्गा मातेची दुर्गे दुर्घटमारी शंकराची आरत महादेवाची लवथवती आरत ह्योच आरती आनी जायते देवांची ह्यो आरती संतांनी रचयल्ल्यो बुकान आसा प्रत्यक्ष पूण आतांची पिढी त्या बुकाक हात लावंक सोदना हे कित्या खातीर ही पारंपारीकता एक पारंपारीक आरती ह्यो खंय तरी शेणल्या ह्यो शेणयल्या आमच्या ह्या पिढीक हांव मागता की ह्यो अश्यो जावच्यो न्ही कारण कंपोज करात हांवूय एक कंपोज करपीच आरती आनी आरती कंपोज करतना हांव कशा तरेन आरती कंपोज करता तेय सांगता प्रत्येक देवाचो एक वेश एक हावभाव ह्यो आमी हो हांव पळोवनूच करता की आतां साईबाबा एक शांत चित्त मन स्वामी समर्थ आतां जर महादेव म्हटलो जाल्यार तेजी रुपां भरपूर आसा विराट रूप आसा महाकाली दुर्गा माता हेंचो जो एक जो राग आसा हावभाव आसा त्या हावभावाचेरूच त्यो आरती बसोवपाक जाय आतां आमी म्हणटा एक सातेरी माता देवी शांततेन आतां आमी तश्यो आरती बसयता शांत प्रमाणे गोडवीन शांत प्रमाणे त्या देवांच्यो देवींच्यो आरती तशें आतां महादेवाची म्हणटा फुडें तो अवतारूय घेता तो तांडव करता त्या प्रमाणे तेजो बेस तसो धरून आमकां आरती करच्यो पडटा.
Mando evolved in the 19th and the 20th century among the Goan Catholics. The music has elements of both traditional and Western culture. The ghumut, guitar, and violin are the main instruments used in the mando.
The Catholic communities use ghumut in various occasions, especially for weddings when they sing mandos. Maybe San John festival when the communities come together near a well and they start singing mandos. For mando competitions, the ghumut helps in the rhythm of the mando. As mando is an emotional song, the ghumut, the tempo that develops helps the singers sing it and express themselves. Especially for the dulpots, the ghumut has another role. It makes the audience also lively as dulpots are faster rhythmic patterns. The ghumut builds that emotions among the audiences and also the singers. The rhythmic pattern of a mando is a 6/8 timing, where the fifth note is stressed on and the sixth note is stressed by the ghumut with his playing. For a mando, it is usually the ghumut that enters first with its pattern, and then the violins or the music follows in. And with them, then the singers join in with their chorals and the beautiful voices. So it is important for a ghumut player to give the rhythm very accurately and to the timing precise, wherein the skills is developed with a lot years of experience. For the ghumut player to use both the ends of the ghumut, where the skin is, and the other end where the sound travels. So with the left hand, you can control the music of the ghumut, which then helps the audience and the singers to join in.
There is something about the sound of the ghumut made with the monitor lizard skin that resonates with every ghumut player as compared to the ghumut made with sheep or a goat skin. That's why many players prefer using ghumut made before the band.
ही मडकी हे कुंभार भाव आमचे आसा एक कुंभार ज्यो मडक्यो बाकीच्यो माती पासून वस्ती तयार करणारे त्यांच्या हातीन हे घडटा तेच्या नंतर एक ही जी घोरपडीची कातरी आयज खंय तरी हेजेर एक दंड आसा ही घोरपडीची कातडी एका घुमटाक लावप खंय तरी एक दंड आसा फायन बॅन केला त्याच्या खातीर आमी एक बकरीची चामडी हाडली आनी एक घुमटाक लायली इतलो फरक येयलो की बाबा हो धीन आनी त्या चामड्यान धीन मारपाक खूब फरक येयलो खंय तरी एक घुमट ते हाल्ल्या भशेन जाल्यो आयज चोरया सगळे लायता खरे पूण हो जो एक आवाज आसा तोच काळजाक सांगप आसता हे घुमट तयार करप हे घुमटाचो एक तरेचो एक कलर एक तरेची गोडवी जेन्ना भायर सरता घुमटा कडेची तेन्ना एक खूब बरें दिसता मनाक.
Every year, hundreds of monitor lizards are killed for their skin to make ghumats and for other purposes. Due to this, the reptile has become endangered and is on the verge of extinction. Now these lizards are protected under the Wildlife Act of 1972, which prohibits the killing of the reptiles for their skin.
If in my 22 years, if I've done anything of note, in my family, we have saved the monitor lizard. So if 2019, the government of Goa made it a state instrument, minimum 5,000 were saved. So for 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 years, just imagine at least 20,000 monitor lizards have been saved, which is huge when you think about it. And in future, you will see some monitor lizards here and there.
The gumat was declared as a state instrument of Goa in 2019. As Goans, we should take pride in its existence, but it has its own past, which is dark and gruesome.
Now, the procedure, how did they actually cut the monitor lizard was quite horrific. So you had trained people, there were people who trained, and their job was to catch the monitor lizard. So these people worked underground, and what did they do? They actually trained dogs and made them really ferocious. These dogs were kept hungry for a few days, and then on the day of the hunt, were taken in a car probably to a hill where they suspected the monitor lizard was. And when they are on their own, 4, 5, 6, 7 dogs, just to basically put the blood of the monitor lizard near their nostrils and let the animal free. The dog used to go absolutely crazy, all the dogs around the trees in the bushes on the hill, and they could probably see a monitor lizard, or the monitor lizard by now is come out of his burrows or whatever it was, frightened, climbed the trees. And if he's climbed the tree, God forbid, that's the end of this monitor lizard, because once it's up, the dogs are all surrounding the tree, plus the owner would have used all tactics to bring that animal down, poor animal. Once the animal came down, then the dogs were trained on how to catch it, because they didn't want the skin to be pierced. So basically, probably around the neck is where they were trained. The dogs were trained to catch. And once they got it, they used to probably come and give it to the actual hunter. So we are supposed to be really nice to Sagat Goenka, but for 50 years we've been involved in a massacre.
They say in life, all good things take time. The same is true with the gumat. Not just a learning curve, but the very making of this ancient instrument takes time. It needs to be nurtured with care and passion, from the very soil used for the pot, to the skin that's carefully crafted, and the rope that ties it together to make the gumat that as it's known.
Yes, so we have this amazing instrument. This is the finished product of the instrument. So you've got the mouth, you've got the one the way you hold the hand, you have the stomach, you have the skin. So you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 components to have a finished gumat. Yeah, okay, here we go. So we start with the first component. As you see, so the first component is the actual mud. Now you just can't go anywhere and get any mud. This is especially in Cape, Bichodin area, and it's about 5 to 10 feet deep. You have to dig a big hole, and probably somewhere in March, April, May is when you collect this mud. So a common person would not know. It's a specialist job to find the actual mud. So we've got this mud. The next process is what you do with the mud. So you have another person who specializes in the mud, and they have to basically make powder of this. So you see, they crush it, and you've got the powder of the actual mud. Now to make the gumat, there are some tools, very, very simple tools. So these are basically stones, and they use a wooden tapper to tap it. So you've got two things ready now. You've got the tools, you've got the mud, and you've got it crushed. So the next thing is So we have 3 people sometimes to make it. So one person's job is only to make this bit here, which is for the hand. One person is for the mouth, and one person is for the actual stomach. So here we go. You can see this clearly. I've got a small one here. So this is the small bit. This is the actual mouth, and this is the stomach. So when I went to a place to stay with them overnight, I was surprised that there was a specialist just to do this bit, for this bit and the stomach. So they then put all these 3 together. So already we got one person involved, 2, 3, 4, and the one to do mud, 5. So this is just to make the gumot, not with the skin. Now what do you do next? Next is the firing of the gumot, which takes hours, 8 to 10 hours, with a very hot fire at a special temperature. So once they do this, then they have to put it in the firing. Once we do the firing, that's not the end. This is just the beginning. How will we get the skin? We need the skin for the mouth. So this is the legal skin that we use now. Sheep skin, goat skin, whatever skin which the government says legal. What is the process? I have a skin with me here, which you can have a look. Yes, it's quite a big skin. Look at it. And this at today's market rate is about 1,000 rupees. Yeah, can you see? So probably 3, 4 gumots you could get out of this skin. Yeah. So, but I cannot go just to MAPUSA market or Banasari and get this. There's a process for this as well. So when they skin the animal, the skin is sent from here to Belgaum. That's what we found out. And from there it ended up in Ghaziabad, where there are specialist people for the skin to tan them. And after it's all tanned, then it makes its way back. So we have to basically buy it from here, give an order for the skin to be bought. So then we've got the skin, but then who's going to tie it and how to tie the skin? So that's an amazing thing. You know, this is such an eco-friendly stuff here. So amazing, our ancestors, coconuts. So people go and know what coconuts are. In lots of parts of the world, they have not seen a coconut. So inside the coconut is the shell and you have the husk. So once you get the husk, you basically have to take it off. And there's a process for this to make the actual thing called the sum. In concrete, we call the sum, the rope. So this, once they collect the husk, there's a long process where they have to basically wet it and rot it in the water, salty water. It's rotted for about 3 to 6 months. So that's another process. So you need this done, and once this is done, the last person we still want is a guy called a fitter. So the skin's there, the sum is there, the instrument. So a specialist person is needed to fit the actual thing. It's not an easy thing to do. And to get the right sound, the fitter has to have the ear for music. It cannot be done by anybody. You know, the sound won't be there. And now the last person for all this is the player. And the player is probably the last person who wants to go out. He's not going to save the gumot. The gumot is going to be saved by all these people. So the future is we have to know all the people in the process to save one of the oldest instruments in the world, and we in Goa are lucky that we have the oldest instrument in the world. So it's up to future generation now.
Although now we have alternatives for the monitor lizard skin, the ban sure did take a heavy toll and caused a major setback for the state instrument. Its future is hazy and ambiguous. Its survival in this era is now questioned.
The future is bleak because without the makers we cannot have the gumot survive for future generations. And there is nobody else we're going to blame. They cannot blame the government, they're giving us funding. We have got the knowledge of how to make it because presently we have people who know to make it. So basically the colleges, the schools, from now onwards have to make field trips, take their children, students to these people and show them how these things are being made. And it's not a simple process. You know, there is a way for this gumot. You need the mud, you need the firing. There are many aspects, and unless you're on a field trip to see how you make the gumot, the future can be very serious and bleak and one of the oldest instruments in the world.
Due to globalization, We now have access to what the world has to offer us through internet. The internet has altered the ways in which music is composed, performed, shared, preserved, and heard. For today's generation, westernized culture and lifestyle have become a distinguished part of their day to day life. From following trends to following pop culture references, the younger generation are highly influenced by Western society. Most of the Gumot players and singers, makers are old school, traditional people who still cherish the instrument. These folk are the ones who fully devoted as compared to the younger generation who are no longer willing to take it up as a profession. One of the reasons can be monetary factors, as most people prefer Western music over traditional due to the better recognition. A lot of stereotypes are created around music, where westernized music is considered more elite and addictive. We are hearing less and less of music sound that has not been influenced by technological advancements. People generally are drifting towards Western music form because of such stereotypes and its open availability through internet.
Okay, so music technically, actually, when music started off, there's nothing to do with entertainment. It was more about healing, right? You actually transform people's moods using music, and any form of old music, especially classical music, comes from that tradition. Comes from it's like a prescription, right? But then that music, like anything else from that time, took time. People took years to learn something. Now, there are stories about classical musicians who practiced just for 20 years and then the teacher said, no, you're not ready to perform as yet. So that was the thing then. It was like to do anything good took time. Today we're living in an age where everything is quick. The moment electronics came in, it shifted from composition to sound. So today a kid with a laptop who knows his software really well will make much more money than a guy who's been playing guitar for 30, 40 years, who's mastered the instrument. Because we're living in a time where sound, it's like, what's a new sound? Like, how do you make it sound so good? And so that is the thing, right? That's the focus right now. You're not going to like get rewards right away. It's like studying martial arts until you actually get to a point where you can, execute a kick correctly. People talk about dancing, lighting lamps and making it rain. I totally believe it, man, because it's all frequency in the end, It's like guys are singing and they're so that's another level of mastery, right? And this is your own body you can master. Classical music is a great example of something that takes a long time. Apparently, if you ask a classical singer what would you want to do in your next life, they said, I want to sing one note for the rest of my life. One note, bro. So for them, that one note is a universe. It's not. It's one note. These guys can tell this is C and this is C sharp. These guys can tell between C and C sharp. So that's the kind of mastery we're talking about. That's the kind of, so that's prescriptive music. That's music that they can make you feel good. So that's classical music, but that's not going to happen overnight. You spend a lifetime. People want prodigies right now. People want to make it by the time they're 20 now. That's not going to happen. It is happening. That's what everybody wants. But back in the day, it was like, by the time you're 40, you're about to say, you can say something because you spend your life trying to do something. So my album Shibumi basically means that. It means that arriving at simplicity by passing to knowledge, which is a Japanese concept. You do one thing, like if you're making sushi, you're making sushi for like 50 years before you can actually call yourself a master.
Traditional music will always be a part of the Indian culture, even if we forget it. It will still be a part of us. It will be each one's decision whether to reminisce it or let it be buried away in the very mud it's made from. Each one of us has the option to choose whether to embrace the inevitability of change or let it slide into the abyss, forgotten.